The African continent is known for being home to poor, underdeveloped countries with serious social problems. Today, I'm here to tell you that every rule has its exception. What if I told you that there is an African country with a Human Development Index and gross domestic product per capita higher than those of the countries in our region and even higher than some European countries? And all thanks to socialism. Did you smoke something, Sebas? No? And Seychelles proves me right. What's Seychelles? Want to find out? And how did it manage to become Africa's rock star? Come on then, stay until the end of the video. The first thing you need to do is locate Seychelles on the map. And don't feel bad if this is the first time you've heard this name. Seychelles is an island nation located in the western part of the Indian Ocean, about 1,100 kilometers from Madagascar, 1,300 kilometers from Somalia, and about 2,200 kilometers from the Maldives. Seychelles. Of the 115 islands, the largest and most populated is Mahé, where the capital, Victoria, is located, and which accounts for almost 80% of the country's total population. Although the main languages are English and French, there is also a Seychellois Creole based on French that sounds like this. No so.
We see in the sky. And
which has strong African and Malagasy influences. This really goes hand in hand with the country's history, a true cultural mix. Seychelles is one of the last territories on the planet to be populated by humans. There is no evidence of a permanent native population before the 18th century. It is said that some Arab sailors and Indian traders used the islands as a supply point. Well, if I had been them, I would have stayed for a while to sunbathe because the beaches really are beautiful. Its history officially begins in 1756 with the arrival of the French who had already colonized the Mauritius Islands. The first settlers claimed the island in the name of King Louis XV and named it in honor of the then French Minister of Finance, Jean Moreau de Seychelles. In 1770, they founded the first settlement on the already mentioned Mahé Island. Like every tropical island territory, the French found a new opportunity for colonial extraction, for which they were not going to get their hands dirty on the plantations. So what did they do then? The typical thing, importing African slaves from Madagascar, Mozambique, Zanzibar, and the Comoros to work on the coconut, vanilla, cotton, and sugarcane plantations. The slaves were influenced by the French, Catholic religion, and the French language, which in turn was influenced by the native languages of the slaves, giving rise to Seychellois Creole. Nothing new, since the same thing happened in Haiti, Martinique, Dominica, French Guiana, Mauritius, Réunion, and Saint-Barthélemy. This is an indicator that the French ruled in Seychelles, with their typical modus operandi. The slaves were deliberately mixed with people who spoke different languages to make communication difficult for them. You know, if they don't communicate, they don't organize, and if they don't organize, they don't protest. Their masters were not the educated ones who spoke the cultured French of Paris, but provincials who spoke regional varieties. From this need for communication, in a context of extreme oppression, new languages are born. A new language creates an identity, and it certainly has endured through the centuries up to our days. As the world became more globalized, the until then overlooked Seychelles became a strategic point because of its location between the European colonies in Africa and Asia. And did the British know that? After the Napoleonic Wars, the Congress of Vienna took place, through which the United Kingdom, as the great naval and economic victor, sought to secure its global maritime hegemony. For that reason, it demanded the cession of Mauritius, the Chagos, and the Seychelles in the Treaty of Paris, the one from 1814. It's important to be specific here. In this way, when the Suez Canal didn't exist yet, the United Kingdom built a chain of naval bases. Sierra Leone, Guinea, South Africa, Mauritius, Seychelles, Lagos, Sri Lanka, and finally the jewel of the crown, India. Administratively, Seychelles came under the control of Mauritius. Economically, they maintained the plantation system until 1835, when slavery was formally abolished. During this period, Asian migrations began, driven from the British colonies in India and Southeast Asia, and they mixed with the descendants of French settlers, further shaping the Creole identity. Is Seychellois? Yes, in Hispanic America, we're not the only mix of everything. In 1903, Seychelles separated from Mauritius and became a direct British colony. This increased the importance of English as the administrative language, although French continued to maintain its prestige. After World War II, anti-colonial movements began in Africa as the United Kingdom was completely weakened. During the 1950s and 1960s, restricted suffrage was introduced and the first legislative councils and political parties were formed. Some of them were the Seychelles Democratic Party, led by James Mancham, and the People's Progressive Front, led by Franz Albert. René, considered the father of the nation, Seychelles gained its independence in 1977 under the leadership of Mancham. A year later, René carried out a peaceful coup and established a one-party socialist regime, which was aligned with the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics and Cuba. From these countries, he received military assistance and economic subsidies, although to balance this in front of the West, he joined the non-aligned movement. You know, God forgives the sin, but not the scandal. Banks, fishing companies, and agricultural lands were nationalized. In addition, there was massive investment in education, health, and universal public services. Yes, I suppose many people are reacting that way, Al.
You can't give that damn leftist even an inch.
However, this model helped Seychelles to become a prosperous and stable country. Although we should add that it is an unusual case within the pro-Soviet bloc. Mancham's Seychelles combined socialist policies with a controlled openness to capitalism and international tourism. And isn't it going to be with such tropical paradises? Earth, swallow me up and take me away right now. For this, the country had very favorable characteristics. It has a territory of 455 square kilometers smaller than Andorra and a population of less than 100,000 inhabitants, almost all of them concentrated on the main island. This made it easier for the state to control, plan, and provide public services. On the other hand, René selectively opened up the economy to attract foreign investment in key sectors, such as for tourism infrastructure. France, the United Kingdom, West Germany, and Switzerland invested in luxury resorts, turning Seychelles into an exclusive paradise. In fact, Elon Musk's fortune is worth about 90 times the entire gross domestic product of Seychelles. Even if just a couple of rich people come to the country, it brings in good money for the state without needing to traffic drugs like others do. Also, the government of Seychelles didn't spend the money on paying its loyal military, but instead invested in education and public health. Literacy became universal, so today it exceeds 95%, while the average in Africa is 67%. An educated population moves the country forward and doesn't allow certain people with little substance to come to power. Due to the Croatia-Russia war, likewise, universal healthcare coverage has encouraged the average life expectancy to be 73 years, while the average in Africa is 64. Political stability also played a fundamental role. Do you know? A small island country that almost nobody knows about isn't exactly a place where many people try to exert influence. Also, René knew how to play his international cards. After the collapse of the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics in 1991, Seychelles lost Soviet support. But don't worry, what happened to Cuba in the 90s didn't happen to them. In 1993, the country adopted a democratic constitution and allowed multi-party elections. From here, they promoted a mixed economy based on the development of a financial system that allowed them to become not only a beach paradise, but also a tax haven. In this way, Seychelles avoided the trap of many former African colonies, not relying exclusively on raw materials and instead betting on globalized sectors with high added value. So, as you can see, we can say that the prosperity of Seychelles is explained by a mix of pragmatic socialism, a small size and a geographic location that made it go unnoticed, good management, knowing how to play its diplomatic cards, and a controlled opening to the market. A socialist success, but with nuances. Whatever label you want to put on it. The important thing is that the people of Seychelles are today the most prosperous and stable nation in Africa. But now tell me, how would you define the Seychelles system? Don't forget to leave your comment and subscribe to the channel. I've included my social media links in the description. And in case you want to watch the new videos at the premiere and have more interaction with me, your donations on Patreon, Una Manito Net, or channel memberships are welcome. See you next time.